Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 6th Campfire Talk of Season 3. It's really nice to see everyone here. If you attended the Camp Symposium about a month ago, you may have heard about our green theme camp community and the Thrival guide and the BLAST camp rating system. For our Campfire Talk tonight, we're going to be talking with some BLAST rated camps in 2022 and learning a little bit more about the green theme camp community while we discuss what sustainability, having a sustainability lead might look like in your camp. We have some guidelines for our Campfire Talks. Please mute yourself if you're not a participant. We're going to be spotlighting our participants and our panelists as we go through tonight. If you have a question that comes up or a comment to share, please put it in the chat and communicate with each other that way. We will also be facilitating a panel with some questions as we go later this evening. Please speak from your own experience and be respectful. We're all here to learn. We have an icebreaker tonight to get our conversation going. Can we have our poll, please? Our poll tonight for our icebreaker question is: what is responsible for creating the most carbon emissions from Black Rock City? Get your answers in. Okay. We're actually going to be getting the results from that poll a little bit later. We want to meet our participants, our panelists here tonight. First up is going to be Elise. Elise is the Green Theme Camp Community co-founder. She helped to found the Green Theme Camp community within BRC and helps lead the volunteer-run compost program of Burning Man. And Elise, if we could spotlight Elise and hear from her.
It's showing that her video's not on.
Oh. Elise, are you ready? We're going to throw you up there.
Elise, it looks like you're muted and your camera's off.
We'll get there. Okay. We're going to swap our order a little bit. We are going to maybe hear from Claire first. Claire Wild prefers the short introduction. She is the BLAST project lead. Claire, will you tell us a little bit about BLAST?
Hi, I didn't expect to be going first. Hi, I'm Claire. And yeah, I'm gonna share a little bit about BLAST, what BLAST is and how you can get involved. Can we share the slides?
Yes.
Great.
Hold on, let me move my windows around here. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, so BLAST. Next slide. Okay. So if you've read through the Burning Man 2030 Sustainability Roadmap, this quote might look familiar. By 2030, we aim for it to be better for the ecology of Earth for Burning Man to exist than to not exist. And that's a pretty big goal. And as theme camp organizers and participants, it kind of got us thinking what theme camps might do to help move the needle. And what might an environmentally sustainable regenerative theme camp look like? And also, I think because we build Black Rock City every year, we have this unique opportunity to experiment and iterate on sustainable practices that we can then hopefully bring out into the default world. So that is where BLAST comes in, you can go to the next slide. BLAST stands for Burner Leadership Achieving Sustainable Theme Camps. And it is a green theme camp certification system. So if you've heard of LEED certification for green buildings, I like to think of it as the Burning Man equivalent. And we're hoping to inspire camps to step up their sustainability efforts by providing an outline for what a green camp might look like, supporting camps as they plan green infrastructure projects, and also having some kind of system of accountability and maybe some friendly competition between camps. So these are the 6 focus areas for BLAST, and they are power, water, waste, shelter, food, and transport. And there's also kind of this overarching focus area that spans across all of those, and we like to call that ecological acculturation. So educating camp members about sustainability, helping people make more sustainable decisions individually, as well as a camp as a whole. And also sharing knowledge throughout like Burning Man participants by having workshops and things like that. Okay, so as we're trying to green Black Rock City, the first step is measurement. And how are we going to track how well each camp is doing? And DA, who also created the MOOC map, designed this awesome sustainability tracker for us. Each camp starts out as code red, and the earth is red, not a good place to be. And then as we start to earn BLAST credits in each of the focus areas, the earth starts to fill in and turn blue again. You can kind of go through the next few slides and you'll see what that looks like. Great. That looks much better. So BLAST launched on Playa for the first time last year, and these are some stats from 2022. We had 20 camps in one village fill out an application form, answering a bunch of questions about their camp's infrastructure and sustainability projects. And then we gathered a team of volunteers who visited camps on Playa to evaluate and help document and celebrate everyone's efforts. And this is a picture of our awesome volunteer team. You can also see Lisa in this picture, who was on the call. And yeah, these are some of the people who met up at Burners Without Borders camp and then went off to visit some of the BLAST rated camps. And this is a list of all the camps that participated in BLAST 2022. Yeah, just want to celebrate them all for taking part in our first year. Oh, this is Eric Linnert with our BLAST sign at Burners Without Borders. And these are a few pictures that some of the volunteers took at various BLAST camps. So it was a few pictures from Hotel California and Planned Playa Head. And this is what the BLAST rated sustainability tracker looks like. So we got back from the Playa, reviewed all of the evaluation forms that we had volunteers fill out on Playa, and gave everyone a BLAST score that was visualized this way. So you can kind of see how well each camp is doing in each of the different focus areas. And all these results were posted on our Hive page. Yeah, you can go to the next one. Yeah, last year was definitely a learning experience, and we collected a lot of feedback on how we might improve this year. So we're already having meetings to adjust our criteria for 2023, taking steps to kind of accommodate the wide variety of camps, various sizes, staff camps, camps with RVs, lots of different considerations. And we're also wanting to build a stronger community year round for knowledge sharing. And so part of that is being through the Green Theme Camp community. First steps to green your camp. So this is kind of a list of like easily accessible steps that we came up with for things most people should be able to do. Carpooling, getting people to share rides and take the Burner Express bus, the big one. tracking your power usage, and some of the Renewables for Artists team has put together like I believe like a Hive kind of course on how to do a power inventory of your camp. Rechargeable batteries, sorting waste, participating in plyo-wide composting and recycling, eliminating single-use water bottles and other single-use items. Yeah, reusing infrastructure, so you're limiting how much you have to buy of new stuff every year. And like I talked about a little bit before, the ecological acculturation, so just talking to campmates about sustainability, really pushing the education. Hopefully Burning Man can be a place where people learn about how to be more sustainable in their everyday lives. And of course, during Blast. So we have our interest form for 2023 that you can fill out, and we'll send you the new application form once we finish that up. And yeah, finally, where to find us. We can post a link maybe to the form. And we also have all of our results from last year on the Hive page. And then the Green Theme Camp community is on Slack. That's all from me.
Cool. Thanks, Claire. We have some information about joining Blast or getting Blast assistance with your camp going up in the chat. And there's a ton of information out there about Blast on Hive and through the Green Theme Camp community. And we'll be posting some resources and links in the chat, both throughout the presentation and then also at the end. So keep an eye there. Thanks, Claire, for talking about Blast. We're going to hear from Elise about the Green Theme Camp community next. Elise is one of our Green Theme Camp community co-founders. Yeah, take it away.
Awesome. I don't have slides for you guys, but hopefully I can engage you with my voice. Claire, thank you so much. So Blast is actually one of the main projects within the Green Theme Camp community. Just to give you guys all context, the acronym is GTCC. This initiative was kind of birthed in 2019, right after the 2019 burn. A few of us from like Hotel California and Burners Without Borders and Ideate and Playa Alchemist kind of realized that we were all working on similar projects to help green our burn. And we wanted to see if there was a way that we could create more of like a simple structure for other theme camps that cared about sustainability, that wanted to build more community around helping each other, help reach the 2030 environmental goals that Burning Man created, as well as just better share resources and activations and everything from like compostable toilets to like compost programs in our kitchens and how we can regenerate using like solar power, etc. And so we kind of started doing these meetups virtually and as well as in person at Fly Ranch, just to think about what could happen if we, worked on sustainability solutions year round, and what would happen if we could share them with each other. And so that was a kind of a simple thesis that we created. And today there are two main projects. One of them is Blast that Claire has really beautifully led and spearheaded. And the other one is the Thrival Guide. And the Thrival Guide is an open source playbook for just camp infrastructure broadly. We have like a simple like Airtable process for how different infrastructure groups from food, power, shelter, transport, waste, and water. And if you have an idea of, or a system or a project or a program that you've worked on that you want to share widely, just so that we can better, learn from each other, we really encourage you to fill it out or just check it out and see like what compels you. And if you want to add to it or take it on or adapt it, we really encourage that as well. I think like right now we're thinking about also just like how can we reimagine how this community can get together. And we're also very interested in having more people join and think about what next year could look like. Last year we kind of worked to have like a green corridor on Playa, and just to have all of these camps together and better share resources. And we're always thinking about having like a green burn outside of Black Rock City, and just kind of having a place to like innovate ideas, talk about ideas. Whenever we get together, it's always really interesting to see what we can do to activate solutions into the real world as well. Of like, okay, so this compost program that we have that's volunteer run and running for like 6 years at Burning Man has been really successful, but like, how can we encourage people to take that into their daily lives in a default world to better compost at home and in their communities? And so that's just one example, but we really welcome anyone to join. We have like we're going to have monthly happy hour calls. I think the next one is like May 3rd-ish around. We're going to send information about that soon. We have a Notion page with a bunch of details that we can link in the chat as well. So you can stay up to date of like the newsletter and updates, how to get involved, etc.
Thanks, Elise. Really excited to connect with other green theme camps. Please check them out. The green theme camp link just went up in the chat. Please check out their happy hour calls and the Thrival guide. Next, we're going to hear from Lisa. Lisa, aka Truly, has been participating in Burning Man since 2005 and is a camp lead of Planned Playahood. She is passionate about environmental health in the default world and works with nonprofit nursing organizations to address climate change, study chemical exposures, and make healthcare more sustainable. She is enthusiastically participating with BLAST in hopes of inspiring all burners to take action to tackle climate change and to implement sustainable practices at Burning Man as well as off the playa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Apologies for my voice. I have COVID. So if I cough during any of this, I apologize. I'm just going to share my screen. Let's see. Can you all see that? Great. So I have some of the same slides that Claire has because we worked off some of the same pictures. But I just wanted to tell you more about applying to BLAST and what it's like to be evaluated on the playa, to be evaluated, and then also to evaluate other camps. I really want to encourage any camps to apply at any size. Really, anybody can do this, and we really want anyone to start this journey wherever you are. You can just have some intentions to make your theme camp greener, and really that you don't have to have any previous knowledge to get started. We really want to encourage incorporating acculturation and sharing of that green knowledge. So what does that look like in terms of art projects and having a public or an outward facing display of some of the things that you're doing in your camp? So we can do that sharing that knowledge and sharing the interest as well.
Lisa, I'm going to jump in real quick.
Yeah.
It looks like the slide that's sharing is white or blank.
Oh yeah. Can you see it now?
Now we don't have any sharing, it looks like.
Let's see.
Looks like a whiteboard.
Oh, people can see my whiteboard. Let's see. Oh, I think I got it. How about that?
There we go.
There we go. Okay. You didn't miss anything. It was a boring PowerPoint slide.
It looks great.
And we really just want to make, greening fun and help camps grow and improve through this process. So as Claire spoke about the sustainability radius, I just wanted to mention that when you fill out the form, so I think someone put in the chat, there's an initial interest form that's gone out. And then we're working on the updated criteria for this year. That's just what we've learned and been able to grow from. And so you will get another, like a form that will have the intentions for 2023, what your camp's going to do. And so you'll fill that out. So once we're finished with that, we'll be sending it out within the next couple of weeks. And so once you get that, you can fill that in. And there's going to be questions in those different topic areas of food, water, waste, transportation, and power and shelter. And then that's going to have different questions regarding measurements, like how much on non-renewable food or non-renewable fuel that you bring, some metrics, what are things that you're trying to achieve, objectives, and acculturation. So you will get those forms, and we're trying to make it new and improved for 2023. And then this is the meeting we had at Burners Without Borders, where we did an initial meeting where everyone came together and kind of learned about how to evaluate the camps. So we got some hard paper forms that we were going to go out to different camps. And we went out on Tuesday and Wednesday to evaluate the camps and see what projects they were working on, and went out in teams of 2 or 3 to learn about what was going on. And so we tried to find the sustainability lead or the camp lead to show us around the camp and things that they were doing to look at that infrastructure. And let me tell you, it was really interesting because having been to Burning Man for 15 years now, it's not often that you get to go behind the scenes and see camps and what they're doing and, you know, back of house. And so that was really, really interesting. So this is, we got evaluated on Tuesday. And so this is my team. And I have to shout out to Scumlord and Neil here that were a part of our sustainability team that really helped get a lot going within our camp. And so we shared our water system. So this is Scumworks, and this is how we try to save water by using less water in the kitchen, scraping off food, sponging it, dunking it, rinsing it, using less water here. And then behind the scenes, this is Scumlord's system to separate any oils from the water, and then a very specialized evap pond that he'd be happy to chat with you about sometime. We also shared our shelter practices, and here's just a picture from what our back of house looks like in terms of trying to get everybody under shade. And this is what we were doing for waste, separating out waste into different areas and trying to you know, really separate the waste so we can efficiently take it out off the playa. And this is our radius tracker for planned playa hood. So we, you know, realize that we have a ways to go on power. That's not something that we're doing very well. But this is a great way for us to realize how we can do better. So then when I went to go evaluate some camps, we went to Retro Frolic, and they were really excited about their water system. So they brought their water in a cube, and then they had a way to cool their camp with it, as well as filter their water, and they were very excited. So it was really fun chatting with the other camps about how they managed their different systems. Here's a picture from Hotel California. I know Claire shared the same picture, but they have 100% plant-based kitchen, which is exciting. And one of the wonderful things about working with this group, and I encourage y'all to join us, is that as we are participating in this, we are learning about best practices. So if a question comes up about what to do, we can investigate it and kind of learn what's more important, buying your food locally or having a plant-based meals. So it's been really exciting to learn that. This is I just wanted to also include something about power because I hadn't, and I think Claire took this picture about from Camp Branderas and their solar power shade. Claire could probably speak to it a little bit more, but we tried to get pictures of what people were doing really well and understand, you know, what they can do so they can share that with other people. Some of the lessons that we learned is that, you know, there's a lot of ways that we can make camps more sustainable and share that knowledge. We want to really incorporate camps early and share our best practices and do things all year long. So if you'd really like to join us, I know we're going to need more people to help do evaluations this year on Playa. And we really encourage you also to join ahead of time so you can get your blast radius and get more involved. And again, here's the same picture of all of us. It's really been a wonderful experience, and I can't thank Claire and the rest of the team, everybody who's been involved for their passion and a dedication to this. We've been meeting like weekly lately to get the criteria ready for y'all. And we're just really enthusiastic to be doing this. So thanks again so much. And I am sorry about my voice.
That was great. Thank you, truly. And I strongly encourage people, if you're looking to learn new things about how to green your camp and maybe pick up some of those BLAST practices, going out to volunteer with BLAST to look at other camps is a great way to do that. You get to see and talk to other burners about the awesome things that they're doing, which is really cool. Next up, we have David. David is the mayor of Anahasana Village and the theme camp organizer of Naked Heart. The entire village is aiming to be carbon neutral this year. The village has always been more sustainable than average, with most of its infrastructure built from recycled materials and 80% Burner Express ridership. 2023 is the year that sustainability is the focus for all 7 camps in the village. Key to their carbon plan is using diesel fuel made from Reno landfill waste. David's going to tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, I want to thank Jamie for inviting me to this panel. This is important work we're doing here today, and I'm really happy to share what we're up to. Puppy, can we get my slides up there? Perfect. So you can see Anahasana Village's entrance there. We're a village of 400 people, and our goal for this year is to be completely carbon neutral. And my intention for today is to speak about the role a sustainability lead plays in a camper village. I'll be talking about concrete things that any camp of any size can achieve. I'll also be introducing some of our own pie in the sky crazy projects for this year. Next slide. Next slide. Perfect. So I think you just went one past. Can we go back to the one that says 600 workshops? Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about who we are. We do lead 600 workshops during the burn. At any one time in our village, you can attend one of 12 or 13 simultaneous offerings. And you can see the camps that are doing that there. I hope to see you on the fly at some of our events. Next slide. So I wear many hats in this village, and we're doing some big shuffling of things this year. But this year, I am the theme camp organizer of Naked Heart. I'm also the sustainability lead for Naked Heart. And I'm the senior technical advisor for a new camp called Hookup Camp. Next slide. So in that poll that we all did, I guess I'm going to be the one who spills the beans. The answer is, yep, there it is. The answer is 90% of the emissions that the Burning Man event generates are from getting to the event. That's getting people to the event. That's getting stuff to the event. It's all transportation. And so all those sustainability efforts in camps take many forms. My main focus and the focus of our entire village this year is our carbon footprint. Everything else I say here today will largely be through that lens. And that's why we're paying a lot of attention to this carbon piece, the 90%. I was really surprised when I heard that number, but I was also really hopeful. Next slide. Next slide. Thanks. The reason is that transportation is the low-hanging fruit. You actually don't have to do a lot to curb these sorts of emissions. Anything you can do to reduce transportation carbon is 9 times more effective than any on-playa changes. And transportation solutions are almost entirely cultural shifts. How a camp makes infrastructure decisions directly affects the transportation decisions of individual campers. Every member of your camp can be equally empowered to help with this project. Transportation reductions are a textbook example of communal effort. The sustainability lead is a critical player here, and I'll discuss the stance and the actions that an effective sustainability leader must have to make real-world results. Next slide. So let's talk about communal effort. I'll spotlight what my particular camp, Naked Heart, does as an example. So we polled our members and determined all the things that are easy to do communally, but really hard to do individually. This led to this list of things that we provide as a camp: water, food, shade, workshop spaces. That's particular because we lead a lot of workshops. And bikes is an interesting one. Next slide. What happens is because of the decisions we've made, I think there's another slide. Oh, no, perfect. Thank you. Because of the decisions we've made as a camp, most of our campers are able to show up just with 2 suitcases. And what that means on a grand scale is that we have 80% burner express bus ridership. The only people who bring cars are our early build crew because the burner express bus isn't running yet. And even that crew is massively carpooling. The thing that makes that possible is how light everyone packs. It's our infrastructure decisions that allows them to imagine fitting everything into 2 suitcases. Originally, we made our decisions not about carbon footprints, but because we wanted to devote more real estate to interactivity than to a parking lot. Next slide. So infrastructure decisions can have a huge impact. We have calculated that just by getting our Bay Area campers out of their cars and onto the Burner Express bus, that we have cut our transportation emissions by 20%. That is equal to our entire on-playa carbon footprint. These savings happened organically through judicious infrastructure choices. And that leads to a very interesting paradox. Next slide. The paradox is that having a set of camp bicycles can save more carbon than a solar power system. Just drink that in for a moment. If the reason you have campers driving cars to transport bicycles, if the reason people are not carpooling is because they can't transport bicycles, you have a tremendous resource to tap. It is far easier and cheaper to deploy bicycles than a solar solution. Next slide. So Anahasana Village is filled with service camps. We're all on a mission of some sort that makes it incredibly easy to appeal to our campers' altruism and idealism. In Naked Heart, we request that each camper personally pay for carbon offsets for their air travel. This can be done at time of purchase or through websites like TerraPass. 80% of our campers elect to do this. Next slide. Just to reiterate, these are all things that any camp can do. Cultural shifts are free. They just require impassioned leadership. The best leadership often comes from appropriate solutions that are unique to your own camp's circumstances. The most important piece of the puzzle is a strong lead. Now for the sexy stuff. Next slide. Next slide. I kind of poo-pooed the on-site impacts earlier. In that same 2020 carbon inventory, it was calculated about half of the on-playa impacts are from theme camps, and most of that impact is from generators of some sort. 300,000 gallons of liquid fuel are burned by camps, including propane. That works out to about 3 3/4 gallons per camper. For the last 3 years, Anahasana Village has burned about 1.2 gallons per camper. Already, that is just 32% of the average camp consumption. Next slide. This year, the entire infrastructure crew from Naked Heart decided to start a new camp called Hookup Camp. They are implementing a village block-wide power grid covering 10 acres or 450,000 square feet. They intend to power 20 camps, totaling 900 campers. They project that this will burn about 1,300 gallons or 1.4 gallons per camper. That's 2,100 gallons of fuel saved from the average. They're also running an off-peak free public charging station. They invite anyone to bring their disability scooters, e-bikes, or even your Tesla for a fast free charge. Next slide. So a bunch of us got together, some beer was involved, and we asked the question, how can we create some local offsets? Like really local, like on playa during the burn local offsets. So we instantly went to motorhomes. I mean, everybody loves to hate motorhomes. One motorhome produces 1,500 pounds of CO2 during the burn. That's the same as a coast-to-coast round-trip jet flight. Also, that two very entitled people can sleep at noon. I mean, like, what's not to hate? The problem is human nature. RVs are easy. RVs are comfortable. Many of the organization's earliest survivors opt for RVs. RVs are probably here to stay. But when we crunch the numbers, we realize that just by hooking a motorhome up to an efficient grid, there would be a 64% reduction in carbon. That reduction is because the onboard generators that are built into motorhomes are grossly inefficient. And that starts to lead to some pretty weird ramifications. Next slide. If you follow the rabbit down this rabbit hole, you'll quickly find that the more motorhomes serviced, the more carbon that is offset. Servicing 24 motorhomes is a saving of 24,000 pounds of carbon, and that is all while burning fossil diesel, which leads us to the next slide. If instead of burning fossil diesel, we burn renewable diesel, 100% of the emissions from that grid is carbon neutral. Just last month, Fulcrum Energy in Reno began extracting synthetic crude oil from the raw landfill waste stream at the Reno landfill. Quite literally, the garbage of Burning Man is becoming the fuel in our generators. Next slide. So when we power a bunch of motorhomes and light up an entire village block, the savings and offsets completely retire the emissions we generate. This creates a total village carbon footprint of 0. And I didn't know how much time I was going to have. I was going to work out the math a little bit for folks, but you can read it here. And you can also ask questions in the chat. Next slide. So again, our situation is very different from almost any other camper village. Our solutions will not be your solutions. What is absolutely certain is that if you have resources in your camp, you have resources that we can only dream of. Use those resources. What I do want to leave you with is a sense that this is all possible. The tools that are most useful are not engineering tools, they're insight and leadership. Start by thinking outside the box. Take stock of your strengths and create your own solutions. The solutions that are most impactful lie in the fundamental question of how you camp and your expectations for your members. To make this work, you must lead, and to do that, you must have a vision that you're leading from. Next slide. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me ramble on. If you have any further questions, I am available by email. I've also listed the sustainability statements from our village and 2 main camps. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat and the moderators will ask them publicly in the forum. If you're watching this on YouTube from the archive, all the links are posted in the information box down below. Again, thank you, and back to you, Vesper.
Thanks, David. Thank you for sharing about your camp and your village and for giving us all some really good ideas. I'd like to bring all of our panelists up to the front. And I would like in particular to highlight Frog and Lee. We're going to turn our attention to some Q&A with our panel. And in light of the information from our poll and what David has just talked about, I want to introduce Frog and Lee, and then I'm going to, Frog, pose the first question to you for our panel. But first, Frog is going to talk to us a little bit about transportation. It's a BLAST member. Unofficially, green building began 50 years ago with the energy crisis of 1973. Frog was an architecture student then and has been designing green around the globe ever since. In school, he worked on research teams who created the first satellite data environmental models. In the late 1970s, he was a leader on the design team for the National Renewable Energy Lab. In 1995, he worked on the team that wrote the LEED green building rating system. For the past 5 years, he has helped bring green to Burning Man, especially for the BLAST rating system, and to teach green groundings, the foundations of green and passive design. I'd also like to welcome Lee. Lee is an efficiency freak that believes architecture of systems and infrastructure prompt behavior more than rules do. So if you create the proper atmosphere, you can engineer the proper behavior. Lee's Burning Man goals are creating efficient shelter systems and reducing the amount of calories, money required for enabling and creating large-scale art. Welcome to the two of you as well. Frog, I want to turn to you.
Sure.
Seeing as transportation is the largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, can you briefly tell us maybe 3 things that camps can do to meaningfully affect this number?
So we've already mentioned carpooling and burner express bus. So that's clearly one. And we've heard some great radical ideas. Thank you to all of the teams and the camps. Ride sharing, but then we've also touched, there's several examples of stuff sharing. And so I think we really need to begin to think about radical stuff sharing here. The large camps, have the ability to do things at scale and maybe longer term investments. But remember, we have new camps and we're always trying to encourage those who may not have as many financial resources. So I love to think outside the box, the radical thinking. So that would be the second thing, share stuff. And then third is you'll see in the BLAST system, acculturation is a major thing. And today's a good example of that. So share your ideas. Make sure everybody in your camp understands why, whether it's carbon or water, those are important things. And then share it with your neighbors all around the city. And then ultimately to the Thrival Guide. We love you to contribute to the Thrival Guide. So back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We're going to hear a little bit more about some of those things in just a minute. But Lee, I'm going to turn to you. Tell us a little bit about efficient shelter systems that might help in this way.
Thank you. And thanks for everybody before me. That's a very simple question with a very complicated answer. And I'm going to demonstrate why. An RV could be an inefficient system, or it could be a very efficient system, depending on how you use it and where it's coming from. A camp that is getting an RV delivered just for the week and it's coming from LA is extremely inefficient, especially if only 2 people are sleeping in it and they're using the AC just running 24/7. However, if a burner lives in Reno and they're driving it into the playa and they're bringing 10 bikes in that RV for a bunch of members and 6 people sleep in it and use the AC efficiently, paint the roof with reflective paint, and all of a sudden that RV becomes a very efficient way of having some level of comfort at Burning Man. So it's very tough to decide what is and what isn't. It's a very fluid issue, but in our camp, we decided that we will not rebuild things over and over again if they're always the same on playa. So for example, as a kitchen, if you're going to build a kitchen every time in your camp, just build it once and build it in a way that it can collapse efficiently, take the least amount of space, and be set up as quickly as possible. If it's a set structure, like a mobile kitchen or a shipping container, like in our case, then everything in that shipping container is collapsible and attachable to the walls. We also put E-tracks so we can put a bunch of camp equipment in it. So everything is designed to be used in as many different ways as possible. I like to use the pan and pot example. If you can only bring one of them to Burning Man, a pot is better than a pan because it can do anything that a pan can. Not as comfortable, but you see the decision. But ultimately, the most efficient form of shade or structure or any other structure on playa is one that inspires other camps to be more efficient. Because over here, we're preaching to the choir. Everybody who showed up to this meeting is interested in, greening your burn. But if you build a shelter that makes other people who visit your camp think about how to green up their shelter, then you did something right. And that applies to all the aspects of greening your camp. The trick is to create something that gets everybody else to join. And that's the main of it.
Great, thanks. David, I'm coming back to you. Your camp has a legacy of measuring sustainability impacts and coming up with your own solutions. Do you have campers who are less than enthusiastic about sustainability? And if so, how do you inspire them?
I wouldn't say we have campers who are less than enthusiastic. We have people who are simply unconscious. Once people become conscious, they become enthusiastic. And that's the big shift that we're making. In the bio that you read, you said we have a lot of shelter made from recycled materials. Literally 90% of our mass is recycled. It's ex-military, it's ex-industrial. Well, we did that because we're cheapskates, not because we value sustainability. So we're only now recognizing how sustainable we've always been. We've been doing it for other reasons that make sense. And we have a 15-year lifespan on all of our equipment, and all of it lives 10 miles from the playa in semi-trailers. So we do that because it's cheap and easy. It also turns out it's the most brilliant carbon move we ever made. Our campers love our leadership because of the beauty it creates, because of the synergy it creates, and because it allows us to broadcast through our workshops. 600 workshops is a lot of broadcasting. Everything we do is to make it effortless to be able to lead 600 workshops. It just so happens that the most efficient way of doing that is also the most carbon efficient.
Yeah, I really like that there are many reasons for doing things, and sometimes the reasons that you're doing something for may also have a sustainability component as well. And this is all about becoming aware, learning, what Lee said, and David, what you just said as well.
Can I share something that maybe answers your question a little bit better?
Yeah, sure.
Because with only 10 minutes to speak, I cut a lot out of my presentation. And one of the most beautiful things we're doing this year is directly affecting that transportation number. We've asked each of our members to take stock of their jet flights this year. I have to admit, we have a lot of tantra leaders, we have a lot of workshop leaders, people that fly all over the world as part of their craft. Our campers are extremely hard on the environment. I own that. But they're doing good work in the process. I've asked each member to prioritize Burning Man by choosing not to do one of the jet flights they already had planned. Vote for Burning Man and just stay home or do a Zoom version of some other meeting. So far, I've got 60% of people pledged to that. A jet flight saved is a jet flight saved. And when you have really gone deep within and decided Burning Man is the most important, it gets top billing in my life. It actually creates better burners for better burn.
I like that. Thanks. Maybe bringing in some, our other participants as well to this question about how theme camps can become carbon negative or even carbon neutral or even carbon negative in maybe other ways other than buying carbon offsets. What are, maybe hearing from each of you, what are some of your ideas or your things that your camps do? I'd like to go.
Well, I can give you an example from working with another event, sort of a regional, the Meisterschaften event in Germany, and they self-directed. We collected over 35,000 euros for offsets, but they self-directed. So ultimately, it went into forestry. But you can plant a tree at home. You can join a neighborhood gardening group. You can work on a composting team in your community. So there's a lot of opportunities, but ultimately what we want to do with all this is make transformations and have a lot of fun and bring this back to the default. So think outside the box.
I can chime in here too. I did all the carbon calculations for our camp, and for travel. And it's really challenging. Our camp is made up of a lot of international travelers. So we have people coming from Australia and Europe, and those are obviously the biggest carbon emissions. And we love having international folks at our camp because they bring different perspectives and different languages and so much wonderful culture to our camp. And we don't want to exclude them. So we'd also buy carbon offsets, but I think shifting your perspective and making sure that you're trying to eliminate waste wherever you can is a huge thing. It breaks my heart every year to see people purchase bikes for just to use at the burn. They go to a box store, and I know Lee really mentioned this, and David also brought it up, is that reusing bikes is such a huge, important thing. My husband, shout out to him, he fixes bikes all week long on the playa, and we share our bikes for all our international campers. And that's one way that we really like to be able to give back. Now, we're fortunate enough to have 2 Burning Man sponsored containers that are stored with the bikes in it. And we have the knowledge from our campmates to be able to fix those bikes. But I think that that's a really huge thing, is to look at ways that your camp can reduce waste, whether that's with buying less or sharing resources, not purchasing things for one time. I know also Frog mentioned the idea of radical stuff sharing. I would love to see someone create like a digital or platform, something like that, to share stuff. We can only keep so much stuff in our attic for our international people, but it is a huge thing. So I challenge everyone to look into that. And how can you just reduce waste so that there's less afterwards? And you have to think about the carbon emissions for transporting stuff to and from the playa as well. And that also adds up. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, Lee, go for it.
I have 2 comments. Number one is know your audience. We're a camp of 150, and I used to tell everybody, treat this place like it's your home. And then I realized that some of my campmates have maids. So I changed the speech to treat this place like it's not your home. And you have to understand where you're at and adjust your behavior. And that goes back to education, to echo what David said. It's the most important, strongest tool you have. Second, sharing resources. We do it with bikes. We do it with kitchen. Almost everything we have in our camp is communal. Perhaps something unique that we have is that we share our clothes. So we have something called the camp closet, and especially in cold years, people bring robes, and people want to be really fashionable and look Burning Man-y. So we tell them, just bring less than what you think you need. And when you're done using it on Monday, just put it in the closet. Somebody else will use it on Tuesday. Somebody else will use it on Wednesday. At the end of the week, you can either choose to leave it in the closet, because we keep rotating things from year to year, or take it back with you. If you do leave it in the closet, since we're a container-based camp, it stays right there next to the playa. It doesn't have to travel back with you to Europe. And when you come back next year, it's there. So the more things you realize you can share, and if you can facilitate that, it makes a huge impact.
Yeah. Frog, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I just want to footnote what Lee was saying, and David, to the idea of radical sharing. A couple tools to make sure everybody knows about, in addition to what we have on Blast and Green Theme Camp. So, everyone who's a camp lead knows about placement, but placement has some great new concepts. I want to make sure I'm selling those. So the new program was called Hubs last year. It was a great start. And then there's also a new initiative to get more communication within neighborhoods. So, I was part of, the East Side neighborhood. And so this will help you find people, or to find people who could, you maybe use resources. So I want to make sure to mention the placement tools. And then also we have tools for carbon calculation on the GTC Notion page. And we've had that out for a couple of years. It's very simple. We're going to update it a little bit this year, but we do have lots of tools. So, think radical sharing. Back to you.
Yeah. Speaking of radical sharing, how can camps work together to share more of these resources, whether it's waste or power or other resources? I know hubs is an option. How do camps get connected to do this kind of sharing? And what kind of things can we share? Lee, go for it.
Easiest resources I found from a TCO perspective is to go on the Burning Man TCO camp page. If you're a sustainability lead, maybe you don't have access to that, talk to your mayor or TCO, and from there you can connect with a lot of camps. There's also sector pages. So if you're part of 9 o'clock, you can connect to all the camps at 9 o'clock and share things that way. But it is a tricky situation, and I'll be the one to say it, maybe. Just going to say it. BLM has a lot of rules that force Burning Man into a lot of rules that complicate a lot of things. So there is no almanac that just says, oh, here's the 10 things you need to do and it's just going to work, because next year it's not going to work. But you need to be really aware of all the rules and the politics that happen in Burning Man, and find your way to just basically build up a Rolodex. It takes a long time, but after a few years of running a camp, you start knowing people and sharing more and more resources.
There's types of things to share. David, is that a hand? Oh, but David, you're on mute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So hubs are great, and I think that's the biggest step in the right direction here. However, we've been doing the hub style thing through the village format for years. And Naked Heart owns 3 geodesic domes, and they're swamp cooled during the day. They're airtight. They are perfect for leading intimate workshops all throughout the day. But we're tired after 6. We stopped leading workshops. So we invited other camps to join the village where their programming is all at night. So the Burning Man Goddess Temple, Sacred Song Tea House, Radical Seed Temple, they don't have any daytime programming, only nighttime programming. So our most expensive infrastructure gets used twice because 2 different camps are using the same infrastructure. And that can really only happen in a village context. We've just now cut the transportation costs and the infrastructure creation costs in half for those camps because it didn't have to be rebuilt.
Cool. Brog, what about you?
I wanted to mention one other resource, keying off what Lee said about building your Rolodex. And I apologize, I don't have it at my fingertips, but if you go to the Burning Man Journal last year, and I think it was in June, KBOT did a really great summary, I think, of all of the green resources from Hive to GTCC, from camps. But I know there's a ton of links in there and really good information. So that would supplement your Rolodex.
Yeah, awesome. Green Theme Camp Community is a great place to make connections as well. Can someone or a camp join BLAST and then not be part of the Green Theme Camp community, or vice versa? Can we be in the Green Theme Camp community and not choose to get BLAST rated? Those work?
Yeah, I can answer that one. I would say that the Green Theme Camp community is kind of pretty loosely organized. Not like there's a formal process for joining the Green Theme Camp community, but the GTCC has been putting on events like these monthly happy hours, and in the past we've had like the Green Theme Camp Summit and some kind of quarterly roundup events. So I'm not sure if we're going to do more of those kind of things in the future, but yeah, it's more like there's these offerings that you can choose to engage in if you want to, and then BLAST is more formally like you apply to join as a BLAST camp, and then we'll get in touch with you.
Yeah. Lisa, did you have something to add about that?
I did actually. Back to your other comment, is I want to make sure everyone remembers why we're greening, our camps at Burning Man in the first place. And that is, for the climate. And we should take these learnings home with us and teach our neighbors and share resources at home as well. And I think that what we can learn on the playa about being good neighbors and about greening is so important to share with our neighbors at home that don't get that experience. So how do we make our communities more resilient? How do we share things in climate events, weather events, and know your neighbors? I think that is one of the most important things that you can do. Is we're only at Burning Man for couple days, weeks, some people months, but a year, but we are in our homes for a lot longer. So what can you do in your home and your neighborhood to be green as well, and transform your neighborhood and your homes as well? So don't forget about that.
Yeah. And this is actually, you took the words right out of my mouth, which is going to be my next question I'd like to hear from each of you about this. What is something that we can take from being more sustainable at Burning Man to being more sustainable in the default world, whether it's a physical piece of infrastructure or a practice?
I can start with that.
Yeah.
This is slightly a little shout out to this Cool Block, which is a program. I don't know if anyone's heard of it before. I can find the link in a moment. Which was a program that was beta tested, and it's also been going on in different cities, where you do work to make your home and your neighborhood more sustainable, and you get to know your neighbors and share resources. And it's the kind of thing where in the event that there's a weather event, you're able to support your neighbors through sharing things. If you do have a generator that you use at Burning Man, make sure that gets used, and it's just not just used for Burning Man. And so people need that in weather events. I think I saw someone put composting. Jamie put composting every day. Absolutely. There's so many things you can do at home. Bike more, don't drive as much, those types of things that are pretty simple that we can forget about. Have a plant-based diet. That's huge. And so remembering those things that you take home with you, and really spread the word to your neighbors and talk to people that you maybe wouldn't always talk to.
Others. Claire.
Yeah, what came to mind for me was definitely composting and sorting waste. Especially, I actually didn't have this experience personally, but I heard about people bringing compost to like the compost collection sites on Playa and having to take off all the fruit stickers to make sure that things were compostable. And that's definitely something that I'm more aware of now. It's like, oh, my avocado needs to take the sticker off if I put it in the compost. So that's a small thing, but definitely composting and sorting waste and recycling. Also, I'm thinking of like buy nothing groups for sharing resources. I'm kind of part of community house networks in San Francisco, and there's a lot of like Slack groups where people will say, hey, I need a shelf, or like I'm getting rid of this rug, does anyone want it? So that kind of like community resource sharing, I think, is really great.
Yeah, thanks. David.
Yeah, I'm a little carbon obsessed. When I found out that 90% of the impacts for Burning Man were transportation, it just sent me down the deepest, darkest rabbit hole I've been in for a while. Because I realized how much I impact the environment when I get on an airplane. And that's true of all of us. We are not third world people. This is the first world, and we move around a lot. And our impacts are pretty high. And I hadn't realized how high they are. And I realized that transportation, not just on Playa, but everywhere, dwarfs everything. And most of it's optional at some level. So I personally am reevaluating everything I do that involves transportation. And the other side thing is I never knew until this project began this year that renewable diesel existed. Like you can just pull up the pump and you can choose renewable diesel instead of normal diesel. And it's usable in any diesel engine. Like, how come nobody's talking about this? So that's where my brain has gotten warped, and all my people around me are getting kind of tired of hearing about it.
Frog, Lee, things to add?
Well, it's all about having fun. So here's what you can do. Make up games for kids. So David mentioned riding bikes. Make up riding bike games. Make up composting games. Grow stuff in a garden. You know, kids get it and they have fun with it. So make up games.
David said that his friends are tired of him talking about it. And I think that's generally correct to all friends of burners who've never been to Burning Man. But that's the key. I think education and educating your friends is about as the most impactful thing you can do. And you can be fun about it. I mean, I used to have friends who...
Beyond my knowledge.
I used to have friends who asked me for bottles of water when they would come for a visit, or if I was somewhere that does offer bottles of water, and I would tell them, oh, so you want the bottle of water, or you want to kill my kids, or are you okay with the glass water, with the water in a glass? And, you know, they find it funny or not, but half the people actually respond by saying, okay, sure, I'll take the glass. And you can be fun about it like that without bugging your friends too much. But I agree with David. That's the most impactful thing we could do. But to echo Frog as well, Burning Man, or maybe I'm not echoing you, whatever, but Burning Man is supposed to be fun. And the greenest version of Burning Man is one that we don't go to. So at some point when you push for green, you get to a point where you just decide we need to not have Burning Man. And there is a price that you have to pay for having fun, and our job is to shrink it as much as possible. But we need to be somewhat realistic by understanding that the fact that we're having fun is going to have a cost to it. And, you know, somewhere we have to make peace with that. Otherwise, you'll drive yourself nuts and all your friends nuts.
Yeah. Thanks. I have two more questions for you all on the panel. But if any of our other participants have questions for you, if you would please put them in the chat so that we could yield them to our panelists, that would be amazing. For my panelists, I'm here at this talk. I'm interested in sustainability at Burning Man, but maybe my camp isn't. How do I start having these conversations about the importance of sustainability or things that we could do in our camp with my camp lead or with other campers? Oh, Lisa, what was that?
It's as you voluntold them. You just you know, beg for forgiveness. Don't ask for permission.
The best Burning Man answer ever. If you want it, you should do it yourself.
In all seriousness, though, I really think that probably depends on you know, maybe how big your camp is and how deep, you know, people are putting their heels into the playa. I think that people might be resistant to participating because they don't know what to expect, and really. Our sentiment is start wherever you are, and this is supposed to be fun, and you're just going to make some new friends out of it and learn something. And so start where you are, and you don't have to make massive changes. I think people think that, for example, in our camp, there was a concern when I wanted to do an energy audit that we were going to have to go all solar. And I said, that doesn't mean you have to go all solar. You're just doing an energy audit to see where we start from. There are plenty of other ways that we can green our camp without buying solar panels and batteries. And we have to acknowledge that that is not right for everybody. And so we don't, just because you're interested in it doesn't mean you have to make a commitment to doing anything. And I think like most people can agree, like just don't buy glow sticks or, you know, plastic water bottles, and you can just start with that. So that's my sentiment on it.
Yeah. You can also have solar panels and batteries and make a big mess in other ways, in other areas. Yeah. We.
One thing,
yeah.
One thing I was
Claire,
going to
go for
add
it.
is if you're interested in getting involved in sustainability outside of your camp, you can always help volunteer with Blast on Playa and help go and visit other camps. And yeah, we haven't really reached out to volunteers to like gather a team to do that this year yet, but yeah, stay tuned.
And if people were interested in volunteering for Blast to go out and meet other camps, how would they get in touch with you to sign up for that?
Well, I guess you could send an email to blast@greentheme.camp. That's probably a good step for now, and we'll just make sure we have you on an email list.
Cool. Lee, David, Frog, how do we start convincing people in our camps to do the sustainability thing?
Well, I'll just, echo the words of Schumacher, small is beautiful. So one of the things, we have a number of big camps here that have a lot of resources. And when you look at the blast radius, there's 6 extra sectors. In the slide, you don't have to do all the slices of the pie. In fact, we would love it if you are, for example, a water expert. Across the street from my camp last year, we had a sauna camp, and they're the best at water. So that's cool. We still want you to participate, even if you're just in one small area. So start small.
David.
Well, personally, if I could convince my campers to wash their dishes, I'd be satisfied. And I think that sustainability is a few steps beyond that, because if you can't even have the personal responsibility of dishes, you can't have the planetary responsibility of sustainability. So Burning Man's really about baby steps. The reason that we determined that people don't wash their dishes is because they don't wash their dishes in their own home. Like they eat pizza that's frozen and they just throw the box away. So our expectation that they rise to our expectations is already a pretty heavy lift. But it all begins somewhere. And I think that this personal responsibility thing that we are assuming exists is actually the first hurdle. And so much of what we do in camp makes it easier for people to see their lack of personal responsibility, to not feel like somebody's got their thumb on them, and they feel self-inspired to do the right thing. We're just setting the bar a little further out this year. It's like, yay, gold star, you got that. Oh, now let's make sure we don't mess up the planet. And we have various ways for people to participate in that. We are running a sustainability kiosk at our greeter station, where we will have docents there who are literally just walking people through what we do. And if the biggest message we can send to the playa this year is all of you are personally responsible because you flew here, we've actually done a pretty heavy lift. And it only takes 10 committed people out of a village of 400 to be the docents for that message. It doesn't have to be everybody. It's all consciousness.
There's a concept called inattentional blindness, where even if you see something, if you don't think about it within about 7 seconds, which is your short-term memory window, it disappears. So sometimes people do stuff in camp or just in life, and you wonder to yourself, what, you didn't see that? And like, they did, but they just didn't think about it. So you're going to have to set an example many times until one day it clicks and they watch you do it and realize, oh, I should do that too. So you have to set an example. And from a TCO perspective, there's who you bring to your camp is the most important job. And you can't just sift and bring, granola people, because, then your camp will be super green, but you're not really expanding on anything. So you also should bring the people that are blind, that you can teach, you can show the way. If you bring a good mix of those, then it will kind of work itself out, because you will have enough blasters to show the non-blasters how things are done. And if it's reasonable, the non-blasters will follow.
Turning to my chat mods, I wonder if we have had some questions come up from our attendees.
Yep, Peta here. We just have a few questions. Sly asked regarding the BLAST interest form that they filled it out and right after the Camp Symposium and haven't heard anything back. So you fill out the interest form for BLAST, and then what can you expect after that might be a good question.
Yeah, well, apologies for the delay. We're still working on the BLAST application form for 2023. So that's why we haven't sent up a follow-up yet. But we've been having weekly meetings to work on that, and Lisa and Lee have both, and Frog have all been part of that. So hopefully by the end of the month, I think we should be able to share that. That'll be the next communication that you can expect from us. But in the meantime, come to the Green Theme Camp happy hours.
Great, thanks, Claire. Just one more question from the chat, and that is from Gary. VW bus camp eschews generators. Does that make us zero carbon on Playa? And he also notes we also try to avoid RVs and trailers. So that might be a question for David.
Oh, David, you're on mute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A carbon inventory is more than just liquid fuels. If you're eating cold granola, then maybe you are carbon neutral. But if you bought ice at Antarctica, you actually brought in a carbon load through your purchase. You made certain decisions about how to get there. So you're probably in that transportation part of it. But all of us participate in watching a man burn. That's 2% of the total carbon load. All of us walk on streets that have been watered by DPW. We take on some of that. You can't get away from the carbon load. What you choose to do with it is your art. And how elegantly you choose to do your art is the mission that you get to shine a light on. And that can change the world. So all I want to do is have all of us take personal responsibility for the choices we are making so that we know that they're justified. If we all desire to burn a man and burn a temple, which, by the way, are carbon neutral, by definition, burning wood is not a fossil load and meets the definition of carbon neutrality. So Burning Man, as they come up with the carbon inventory, is segregating things that are fossil and non-fossil. And carbon neutrality is something that we as a society need to start paying attention to, because it's the fossil load that's the biggest problem. Everything else is just cyclical.
Thanks, Peta. Thanks for the questions. Thanks to our attendees for being here. To kind of sum up what we've all talked about, as David just mentioned, it's all about choices, making small step in the right direction is a step forward. And it's also about making connections and learning and teaching. And I hope that this has been an interesting panel and learning experience for those of us who've been here. Even if we have a bunch of stuff going on in our camp that serves the purpose of sustainability, there's always more that we can learn. We have a bunch of resources and links that we have been sharing throughout the way, and we'll share here at the end. A big plug for that is the Thrival Guide, which is that open source playbook for ideas for greening your camp. If you have amazing things that you do, please share it. And if you're looking for some fresh ideas, please check it out and see what you can get. I have a couple of additional plugs for us as we start to wrap up. The Burning Man Project will be doing a call on July 21st to celebrate their 4-year anniversary of the 2030 Sustainability Roadmap. And that call will also be streamed live on Facebook. They're going to discuss progress towards our 3 goals to handle waste ecologically, be regenerative, and be carbon negative. So please check that out. Speaking of learning and sharing with each other and making connections, we have 2 more Campfire Talks this season. We have one coming up on Tuesday, May 20th about build and strike, how to be organized and how to motivate your campers. And then we have another Campfire Talk coming up at the end of June as well, which will be really exciting. So please keep an ear out in newsletters and your email and on the social medias for links and information about how to register for our 2 upcoming Campfire Talks for the rest of this season. And really excited to have had you here. Thank you very much to our panelists. It was wonderful to hear from you all. And thank you all for attending. We will see you at our next session. Take care. Good night, everyone.